Up next, we're chatting about custom word list. Learn what they are, why we use them, and how to make one.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
Hello and welcome to IT Pro TV. This is CEH. I'm your host, Kathy Chambers. I'm here to make this guy look good.
She does a great job of it too.
It's a hard job. Somebody's got to do it.
That's why we hired her, because they're like, this Daniel guy is floundering hard. We got to bring in the ringer. So good to have you, Kathy.
Thanks. So we're chatting about word list.
Yes.
So let's define it. What is it?
Yeah, good place to start.
I think it's a good place.
Well, I hope you brought a helmet, because I'm about to blow y'all's minds with what a word list actually is. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a very simplistic definition, which is a list, wait for it, of words. That's right. I know. Like I said,
He's the expert.
You got to be tightly secured, because, right? But there's a little more nuance to it than that. And basically what we're talking about is the idea that, yes, it is a list of words, but it's one word. I'm going to put that in quotes. It's going to be one word per line in just a flat text file. And what I mean, why I put that in air quotes is going to be because it could be made up of multiple words, right? So it could be the dog is brown, but it's on one line. Therefore, the dog is brown is one word. The space is included in that. Think of it more of the idea of strings instead of words per se. That is a string of text, and it contains alpha characters as well as clear space characters, which are the spaces. So whatever's on that line is going to be considered the word for that line. So just because, right, you have a word list and you look at it and you go, hey, that line has multiple words on it. How come it doesn't iterate through each one of those words as I use it? Well, that's because it's seeing that as one word. So one line equals one word. That's really the most proper definition of a word list.
Okay, one line, one word.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
No matter if it's multiple words.
Okay. So are there standard word lists, or can we make custom word list?
Yes. Well, this show is all about custom word lists. So yes, we can definitely make a custom word list, but you're right. Like, the wheel has been invented a couple of times, and only when necessary would we go back to the drawing board and think, what can we do to make it maybe a little more customized, to Kathy's point. So there are some standard word lists. And if you're using something like Kali Linux, Parrot, and any other pre-built pen testing operating systems, and there's a bevy of them out there for you to pick and choose, and by all means, try them all and see which one you like the best. I've used Kali for quite some time, so I'm most familiar with that. I do want to jump into a Kali box really quick. Let me show you some of that action. So if you do something like, let's do an ls/user share, and there's one area called sec lists right here. And underneath sec lists, we have some areas in which you might find different types of lists. One of them is going to be things like, well, passwords, right? That's probably the most common thing we think of when it comes to utilizing word lists, right? It's something an attacker is going to use to try to brute force attack a password. And a word list, also known as a dictionary file in a password attack, would be that. So a password area, that's a good place to check out. So let's go to, let's see here, ls user share, and it is sec lists, and it is capital P passwords. And bam, in there, look at all we have. We got tons of stuff in here. So when Kathy asks, are there standard word lists? Absolutely, plenty of them out there. Actually, so many of them makes you wonder whether or not standard is a good way to put it, right? But common is definitely a great way that we would talk about these things. And you can see some of them are very well described. Like we have, let's see here, 2020 200 most used passwords right there, right? And if you just cat that file, so cat user share, was it sec lists, and this is passwords, and this is the 2020 200 most used, and I click that. Hey, look at that. It is a flat file, line by line, different quote unquote words that are happening there. Some of them are words. We got Taylor, football one. You can see it's also a amalgamation of different types of character sets, and that's fine. Again, going back to whatever's on one line is considered a word per se, but that's what a standard word list would look like. Probably the most utilized one, and the most well-known, most infamous even, we'll use that terminology, is the RockU word list. Now I have that in Kali. I believe it is found in LS user share word lists. So another area where word lists exists is a place called Wordlists, believe it or not, about that under the user share directory. Let's see what we got there. Yeah, and there's the RockU. And you'll notice they have that in a .gz file, which is a gzipped or right, gzipped. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, which is a compressed file because it is large. So if you use RockU, it is extremely large, so you might have to wait a while. I mean, a lot of times it ends up being a waiting game, but that's a great, what I would call standard work list, or standard word list, should I say.
So I've heard that custom word lists, they kind of fill in the gaps, but what does that mean when they fill in the gaps?
Yeah. So this is getting to the idea of, okay, we've got these general, used most often commonly kind of thing with these word lists, but that doesn't always give us what we're looking for, right? Sometimes people do make good passwords that aren't inside of a dictionary file, that aren't inside of a word list that pre-exists. So this is where the idea of creating a custom word list would be beneficial, okay? So now, a couple ways in which you can create one of these things. You could do it the old-fashioned way, roll up the old sleeve and jump in with the elbow grease and actually create a word list. And that would be as simple as pull up your favorite text editor and start writing line by line things that you would think are a good password. Now, I say that that's not a fun experience. I have done that, and there can be benefits to doing it, which is maybe if I'm creating what I think is the most commonly used passwords, or in my space, right? This is the idea behind a custom. It's more of a one-size-fits-one solution than it is trying to be a one-size-fits-all solution, right? That's the idea behind a custom word list. So if I manually go in and I create a word list, it's going to be very, customized toward my experience, what it is I'm trying to do, the organization I'm testing with. So again, you can do that manually. I don't recommend that though, because it can be a bit of a slog. But from time to time, that will be the case. Now, that said, it does leave us with automation. Like automation, nice, because it does it fast. The computer is faster than us at certain things. So why not let it do the heavy lifting whenever and wherever you can figure that out? So a couple of tools that you can use to make that happen. Actually, I say a couple. One that I like to use on when I'm testing for an organization, or if I'm doing a CTF, works out really well, especially against a web application when they have a good web presence, is a tool called Cool. C-E-W-L.
Not C-O-O-L.
Not C-O-O-L.
Not to be confused with how cool we are.
Yeah. We cool, but this tool is called Cool, C-E-W-L, and it does differentiate itself very well. So I say we take a look at how we could build a custom word list using Cool. Let's jump into the computer yet again. So here we go. It's just, again, in the standard, I am connected to the internet because I want to contact a website and get information from that. Well, first, let's just take a look at Cool. I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to type in Cool, and you'll notice it's saying, hey, you're kind of missing some stuff. I love the help. It doesn't just print the help. It tells you that you need to print help. So super helpful, Cool, -- help, I guess, is the soup du jour. And there you go. You're starting to get all the standard arguments that could go along with it. I do like when they show you a usage, like what we see here. I can never triple click correctly. And you see that it's like Cool, options, and then the URL. So what this is going to do is it's going to, based off a set of options, going to reach out to a website. Like if Kathy had kathyscoolcats.com and I wanted to target Kathy and her organization. I know, you got to go get that. You got to pay for that. Yeah, she's looking it up right now. But if she were to have that site and I was testing for her, I would want to see, is there anything about that that might be a part of users' passwords, right? Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, so I've worked for a company and or two in my day, specifically where I was actually involved with the IT administration. We had to make a policy that said, it's in Gainesville, don't use Gainesville in your password. Don't use University of Florida or Gators, which is the local college sports team. At that time, it was extremely popular to use Tim Tebow's name in some capacity. Like, don't use anything that has to do with the company's name as part of your password. That's bad. But users, unfortunately, are looking for something that's going to help them do this easily, right? They want to make a password they can remember easily, and then they can type easily, and not right. So it's all about that. So they're going to just meet the criteria that you give them. So if you might have to remove those things. If you don't, well, they're going to make a password. Here we are at IT Pro TV. Kathy, your password is
IT Pro TV.
IT Pro TV.
Let's rock.
Yeah, right. Exclamation point 001, right? Because those are the constraints we give you.
Oh gosh, I hope that's not somebody's password.
She's like, oh no. No, that's not my password at all. What are you doing? Nothing. No, I'm not changing my password. That's exactly, I'm sending an email, right? But that is very common. Have you ever done that? Have you ever made a password that kind of like was about the organization you were?
Probably in my younger days, not really realizing, that that's a problem.
Yeah. Naivety can definitely play a part into that. And just the fact that we got enough going on in our lives, plenty of passwords to have to remember, that you try to make something. So understanding your target and understanding the people that work for your target can help you build those custom word lists. And that's exactly bringing us back to Cool, right? So let's take a look at some of those arguments that Cool has for us now that we kind of got the idea of what we're doing with it, and see what we can make it do to give us the best possible word list. So let's jump back on the computer. All right, so here we have my favorite -H, right? Gives us that help file so that we can see that I need a -D for depth. So if I want to go beyond just like if there were links to follow inside of the page that you're going to, it would only go to too deep, right? So that's the default. If I want to change that and be able to go 10 deep, so 10 links clickable or 10 followable URLs down the rabbit hole, as it were, I would want to do that. M is another really good one to know about because it gives you the minimum word length. So two character words, probably not a password. And especially if I know the password policy of my target organization, that comes in handy because I don't have to waste my time with words that don't meet the correct length criteria. So I can say, hey, give me a minimum of 6 characters, minimum of 8 character words. So a -M, super helpful there, right? This is another good one. Offsite, sometimes your site will take you to different sites. You're like, well, maybe you're connected. You work together. Could be good to gather that information as well, right? So let's take a look at that. And then, of course, if you want to write that out, you're going to need a -W to say, hey, take what you learned and slap it in this file and just give it a name, okay? You can also lowercase stuff, add numbers, or accept words with numbers as well as just letters, right? Again, trying to craft that perfect word list that's going to help us get what we're looking for. We can include metadata with a -A. We can do a -E to include email addresses that it finds. Kind of makes that separate email list, and then you can output that with the --email file. Throw that into a different file, right? Show the count for each word with a -C, or each word found, right? Good stuff. Verbosity never hurts to have, and a little debug flag. A couple other different things. You can do authentication with this. So if you had to give a username and password to get past a certain area, they got you covered right there. And if you're using proxies, they've got that as well. All right, enough talky. Let's showy exactly what's going to go on here. I'm going to use IT Pro as the target host, right? So I will cool. And if I remember correctly, I can do a -M for that minimum word list. I'll give it a 6. I think 6 is a nice place to start. Yeah. We're of a mind. Let's keep going. I also want to write that out. So -W, and I'll call it coolfile.txt. Let's see here. What else can we do? I think that's pretty good. Like for the most part, that should be your standard. You're just trying to get started, just trying to make a Word file. That's going to keep the Mickey Mouse down to a minimum, and you're going to get a good list of words, right? So I just now need to tell it what URL, itpro.tv, and fire away. Now that was pretty fast. I think we've got more words in our site than that. We did get the output file. I will cat cool file, and there's no words in it. Okay, so something's going on here. Let's see here. I'm going to just curl itpro.tv because I know we have content on our site. There are words there. I mean, you're here, right? Okay, so this is where knowing a little bit about how web works is going to be helpful. I'm getting a redirect, a 301. This is moved. So it's following down. I need to go to the next level. So I'm going to need that -O. So let's bring up cool file yet again. Actually, I'm going to remove the cool file we have. rm cool file, text. There we go. And then I'll just up to this and add a-o for following links. And now, yeah, we definitely saw it take a little bit longer there. Cat cool file, right? Yeah, look at that. Got ourselves a nice word list to start working with. And I'm seeing things like Englewood and Havana and Instagram and Reddit, anything. Oh, there's one that's kind of like, I thought I saw edutainer.
I saw expert and trainers.
Okay, maybe my mind conflated the two, but
yeah,
I bet we have things like edutainer, which is very specific to our organization, right? And that could be a part of somebody's password that would not be in a standard Word file. So you start to see the ease. It wasn't too difficult to create this. You know, I can give you a little easier time looking at that. It wasn't too difficult to create this, understand some of the switches behind cool, but now I have a custom Word file that's going to be much more pointed to my target that could bring me the goal to get me to the mountaintop when it comes to gaining some sort of access to it.
So there you have it. Now you guys know what word lists are, how to use them, using cool, C-E-W-L.
That's right, get it right. It's important for the exam, actually. Right? Don't get tripped up.
There are reasons we're here.
Yeah. We wouldn't tell you, steer you wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Stay with us. There's more IT Pro TV coming your way.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.